Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone 15 and compare it against the OnePlus 11 and see which particular phone is a better one for you. Now, I will definitely tell you, between both these devices, the phone that may look more like a flagship on paper is the OnePlus 11, but the iPhone 15, I probably would tell you, is probably the better phone for a vast majority of people out there, and I'll try my best to explain that throughout this whole entire video. If you want to go and pick up these phones, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there, and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off with the outside of both these phones, the OnePlus 11, which came out a little earlier this year, on the front has a 6.7-inch LTPO3 Fluid AMOLED display. It's a massive phone. It's a very, very big phone, 1440p, so a very big resolution, very high resolution, and 120Hz on that display as well. Those are some really cool things to have inside of a phone like this, and I will tell you from that perspective, you are getting a very good display with just an overall good phone on that specific phone, and that's something I love seeing. Now, it's a hole punch display, so it looks very nice, curved display at that. The iPhone 15, on the other hand, this time around, has a 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. So with this particular phone, there's a few different things going on with it. So for one, you're basically getting a phone that has a smaller display on it. It is a dynamic island, so it may be a feature for some people, but with this particular device, it is a little bit of a different story because it isn't as big of a display and it's only 60Hz, and the hole punch is actually bigger than the OnePlus 11's hole punch. So those are just some minor things to keep in mind. I will say though, the panel on the OnePlus 11, I don't know if it's as good as the iPhone 15's in terms of like just when you're looking at it, but as you're actually using it, the 120Hz is super nice, and honestly having a big display goes a long way for a ton of people out there. So in terms of that perspective, I will tell you that kind of covers it up there. Now, moving on to basically the rest of the body, the OnePlus 11's body I think feels very good. It's like a curved side, so it has like very, very sharp edges, which kind of make the phone feel a little bit thinner. And the iPhone 15, completely different story. It's a complete flat-sided phone. Personally for me, as I mentioned for a long period of time, I do like having that like flat side. I think that makes that phone feel very good. But the OnePlus 11 kind of is a little bit more practical here and there, but it is what it is. There's not really a lot to complain about here. I'll probably tell you in my specific viewpoint, the iPhone 15 still feels very modern in this day and age. Both these phones have USB Type-C ports, which again is super nice to see. I love having USB-C, and this is pretty much going to be almost the exact same thing going on with both these devices because they both have USB-C ports. On the back, a lot of similarity here too. They both have frosted glass backs, which is super nice to see. I will say the OnePlus 11, the frosted glass back in that feels a slightly bit different, but I do like how the OnePlus 11 has that type of capability of having that frosted glass back. The iPhone 15 now also has that frosted glass back, which as I mentioned before is very interesting because we haven't had that for a very long amount of time in this specific device. So I love seeing that, and within the iPhone 15, having that frosted glass back is very cool, and that in and of itself is a very, very nice thing for sure. So that kind of covers it up on the outside. I will tell you from my personal opinion, the iPhone 15 I think is probably the one that is more usable for a lot of people, considering it's a much smaller phone, and I do think probably the average person would feel just more comfortable owning and using a phone like the iPhone 15 over the OnePlus 11, but there are lots of features going on with something like the OnePlus 11 that could end up kind of making that phone feel more like a flagship to some people than something like the iPhone 15. So kind of keep in mind, it's kind of a lot of overlap, a lot of things going on, but that's kind of how it covered that up in this specific situation. Now, on top of that, the camera side of things are also a little bit different here. So with the OnePlus 11, you're getting a triple camera setup, technically speaking. So it's a 50 megapixel wide, 32 megapixel telephoto, then a 48 megapixel ultra-wide camera. With the iPhone 15, you're getting a 48 megapixel wide and a 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera. There's still a lot of overlap between these lenses, but there's some, kind of flip-flopping here, which is very unique and interesting between these two devices. The OnePlus 11 has the ability of filming 8K video on the back. The iPhone 15 can only do, 4K at 60. So that might seem like a pretty big difference, which it is, but on the front side, the iPhone 15 can do 4K at 60 video. The OnePlus 11 can only do 1080p at 30. Still in this day and age, OnePlus cannot do 4K at 60 on the front. It's a very, very weird thing. I still don't understand why OnePlus is doing this. They should go through and give us a better experience overall on the OnePlus 11's camera. Like I said, I still don't understand what they're doing here. Hopefully they end up making some of these improvements in the future. But as of right now, that's kind of where we're at. In my personal opinion, I would probably say that a device like the OnePlus 11 is probably going to be giving you a good camera on the back with more features, but the iPhone 15 is probably going to be the better camera sensor for a vast majority of people. If I were to go through and if I were to use a particular phone, I would probably rather have the iPhone 15 camera for a couple of reasons. One, I feel like the quality of those lenses are better, but two, in my personal opinion, I actually do feel like the OnePlus 11's camera really isn't that great, and I feel like OnePlus could be giving us a much better camera setup than what they're initially giving us right now. I feel like that in and of itself is a very, very weird thing that OnePlus is doing, and I feel like even though they're giving us 8K on the back, they've been doing that for a couple of generations. Like I said before, I think they could be giving us a little bit of a better experience here, but it is what it is. There's not a lot we can do about it in this specific standpoint, but that's kind of how I see these two cameras holding up. I would probably tell you that the iPhone 15 camera is probably the better one in general overall, although the OnePlus 11's camera having 8K and a lot of those features is a really nice touch as well. So that kind of covers it up there. Now, in terms of the software longevity, I will probably tell you that the iPhone 15 is going to be the longer lasting phone here pretty much in every single dimension once more. The iPhones just last a very long amount of time. I think everyone kind of knows this. And that's a beautiful thing going on for that particular device. I love iPhones a lot. And like I said, having the ability of just having a phone that lasts a long amount of time like the iPhones is always going to be one of the major features of picking up a device like that. But I do feel like with the OnePlus 11, it's on, the software that it is. It's still going to be supported for quite a bit of time. And like I said, there's not a lot to complain about here from that specific standpoint either. So that kind of covers it up there. And the performance side, the OnePlus 11 has that Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset inside with 8 gigs of RAM on the base model, 12 gigs of RAM on the mid-tier model, and 16 gigs of RAM on the top-tier model. The iPhone 15, on the other hand, has the Apple A16 Bionic chip inside with 6 gigabytes of RAM. Now, I will probably tell you the OnePlus 11 is going to be the overall better performing phone in some areas. I would probably say for a vast majority of areas, the OnePlus 11 is going to be the better performing device. You're going to be getting things like, the faster processor, lots and lots of capability within that software with installing your own applications and different things like that, which is so beautiful to see. And I definitely do think that is a really cool feature going on with those devices. I will tell you on the other side with the iPhones, like I said before, typically have probably some of the best versions of software, meaning on iOS, it's a very smooth experience, and that's something I really do like on that device. I will also like to add within that with something like the iPhone, 15, this is a device that's going to be supported for a long period of time, so it's only going to be getting better and better. And iOS is very smooth, and it doesn't really take a lot of software and, power to power up that particular device. So I think that might be like another kind of small thing to keep in mind there too. So personally for me, I look at a device like the, iPhone 15, and it definitely gets a thumbs up for me in the performance side. Battery life wise, some people may say that the iPhone 15 may have better battery life here and there, but I'd probably tell you that the OnePlus 11 is probably going to have probably the best battery life when it comes down to it. Again, that's just kind of how these things go. And personally for me, when you're getting a better performing device, you're always going to have, the shot of taking the battery life getting a little bit lower. But that's probably why I will tell you that with the iPhone 15, you're probably going to be getting good battery life here and there, but the OnePlus 11 is probably going to be better. So to kind of sum it up, what I'll definitely tell you is I definitely do think the iPhone 15 is probably the best phone you could probably get between these two. I feel like that's the device I would look at as it being the more superior one in probably a majority of ways. I will tell you though, with the OnePlus 11, it's a very, very good device. I like it a lot. And once again, that's a device I would recommend people to go and look at and buy if you want. But even then, I wouldn't recommend people to buy it. I'd much rather people, recommend buying the iPhone 15, Samsung Galaxy S23 Plus, or phones like the, maybe like the Google Pixel 8 or Google Pixel 7. I would not recommend buying these devices, to be honest, on the OnePlus side anymore. So that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that helps me so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.